When did you prove your parents were completely wrong? My dad told me that comic books would turn me into an idiot, so at 13, he banned me from owning a single comic book, graphic novel, manga, everything. He and Mom went into my room and threw away my entire collection I'd hidden under my bed last year. When I got home from school, I tore my room apart, only to find it shredded down in their office. Even on my birthday, when Grandpa gave me a vintage Spider-Man comic, Dad took it from me after the party and ripped it up while I screamed. "This garbage is rotting your brain," he'd said, tossing the pieces into the trash. "You should be reading real literature." He had Mom email all my teachers to make sure I couldn't check out graphic novels from the school library. I was devastated. I tried to explain how the comics had actual life lessons in them. "With great power comes great responsibility," I said. Dad cut me off immediately. "Life lessons? It's just grown men in spandex punching each other. Total mindless trash." Meanwhile, he'd spend hours scrolling through his phone, watching fake news stories, and listening to Reddit shorts. The hypocrisy drove me crazy, especially at school. I'd become the weird kid who didn't know anything about Marvel or DC. My friends would talk about the latest movies, and I'd just sit there wishing I was them. They eventually stopped inviting me to see superhero films because they knew my parents would say no anyway. My best friend Renz said he felt bad for me. He started bringing his comics to school just so I could read them during lunch in the bathroom stalls, where no teachers would see. "It's not fair," I told him. "I could literally be out doing drugs, but instead I'm just reading comics." Renz agreed, shaking his head. Parents. We continued those sketchy bathroom meetups until one day, when I moved my bed to vacuum, I found a loose floorboard underneath and turned it into my secret library. I started collecting again with Renz's help, hiding issues of X-Men, Iron Man, and this one series called The Engineer. The Engineer was different from other comics. The hero was basically a genius who solved problems using real physics and engineering. Every issue had these detailed explanations of how things actually worked. Issue 47 was my favorite. The hero got trapped under collapsed building rubble and used a metal beam and concrete block to create a lever system. The comic showed all the math about force multiplication and mechanical advantage. I memorized every diagram, every formula. Who knew it would actually matter weeks later? One Saturday afternoon, when my parents were out cleaning out the old shed in the backyard, this massive cracking sound scared me. I opened up the window to see what happened and saw the shed had partially collapsed. I quickly ran outside, yelling frantically for my parents. "Call 911, Dad yelled as the main support beam pinned his leg against the concrete floor. Mom tried desperately to lift it, but her twisted ankle stopped her from using all her strength. The support beam barely budged. I ran inside and called for help, but the dispatcher said it would take 20 minutes because of another accident several miles out. "I can't feel my foot," Dad said when I came back. "The beam's cutting off circulation." Mom cried, holding his hand. I tried to lift the beam myself, but couldn't. That's when my brain clicked. Issue 47. The exact same situation. "I need to make a lever," I said, already running toward the garden tools. "This isn't the time for your fantasies," Mom shouted. I ignored her and grabbed a long metal pole we used for cleaning gutters and 3 concrete blocks from the garden border. My hands were shaking, but I knew exactly what to do. The comic had shown how to position the fulcrum for maximum mechanical advantage. "Stop playing around," Dad whimpered. "You're going to make it worse." "The Engineer issue 47, I shouted back, positioning the first block about 2 feet from where the beam pinned him. "I need a 6-to-1 ratio for this much weight." I slid the pole under the beam, over the concrete block, and started pushing down on the long end with all my weight. The beam shifted slightly. "It's working," Mom gasped. I repositioned the blocks closer and tried again. This time the beam lifted 3 inches, then 5. "Pull him out now." I strained against the pole, my arms burning. Mom grabbed Dad under his arms and dragged him clear just as my strength gave out. The beam crashed back down, right where his leg had been. The paramedics arrived 10 minutes later. Dad was sitting on the grass while they examined his leg. The circulation was already coming back, his foot pink instead of purple. "Your son rigged up a lever system to lift this beam?" one of the EMTs asked, looking at my makeshift setup. "That's brilliant thinking for a kid." The other paramedic wrapped Dad's leg. "Few more minutes and you might have lost this leg. Where'd a 13-year-old learn mechanical physics?" "The Engineer comic series," I said, still catching my breath. "Oh, issue 47, nice! Well done, kiddo," the EMT said. Dad and Mom just stared at me. "You read this? In a comic?" I nodded hesitantly. "I hid them under my floor. I'm sorry, but they're not just mindless stories. They have real science in them." Dad was quiet for a long moment. Then he said with a soft smile, "Show me." I couldn't help but grin back. That night, I pulled out my hidden collection. Dad picked up issue 47 of The Engineer and read it cover to cover. When he finished, he looked up at me. "Got more?"